What we're covering today is standard form, equations of lines in standard form. So we're still talking about linear equations. And I don't think what we're doing today is overly complicated. There's going to be a little bit that's going to be somewhat more complicated than some of the other stuff we've done. But the first thing we're going to cover is vertical and horizontal lines. Vertical and horizontal lines. Now, a vertical line is a line that is going straight up and down. That is a vertical line. And the equation of a vertical line is x equals. Whenever we have an equation, x equals a, or x equals -7, or x equals a number, it is a vertical line. It's going to be a line going straight up and down. Because all of those values going straight up and down would be the value of x. Because if we had a -7, all the points going straight up and down, at -7 on a line would be the point. Because if this here we said a is 1, well, the only places where x is 1 is that line going straight up and down. That's where x is 1, yes? So it's all those points going straight up and down. Now, this one here is y equals. Whenever we have y equals, it's a straight line. It's a horizontal line. So horizontal lines when we have y equals, vertical when it is x equals. Because when we have y equals, it's all the points where y is that number. Well, it's going to be just straight across. So when we look at this first one here, we have y equals 4. It's going to be a straight line going either horizontal or vertical. Now, y is what? Is it horizontal or vertical? It's horizontal. So because here, at this point here, this is where y is 4. All of these points along this line here are where y has a value of 4. And that's it. We could graph the equation of the line y equals 4. It's going to be a straight line going across at 4 because all of those points have a y value of 4. Questions on this here? Now the next one we have is x equals -2. X equals -2. Would this be a horizontal or vertical line? It would be vertical because x equals is vertical. It's straight up and down. So we can find the point where x is -2, a point where x is -2, which would be right here, yes? That's also all the points above and below it because that's where x is -2. So to be this line here, because all of those points are where x is -2. That's it. That's graphed. We graphed it. If we just have x equals or y equals, we can just put that dot because that is where x is that value or where y is that value. Y is equal to -2.5. -2.5. Now, on Big Ideas Math, you won't have an exact graph that looks like the ones on your note sheets, these here. And most of them because I looked over this before I assigned most of them, if they have those weird decimals, so here we have halves, it will actually split the graph into halves. So it'll actually have a mark in between each one. It'll have the entire grid set up to be half. So each line is halves. And there's ones that'll be thirds. That needs to be set up in thirds. It will have it marked for thirds. It'll have it set up the way you need it. Okay? Now, for this here, -2.5, well, we would go over to -2 and then over a half. So on your paper, we can put one between -2 and 3. And we put a line and then what? Our line would be straight up and down or across? Across, because it is y equals. It'd be helpful if I actually graph this correct. Because it should be down here, yes? What was I about to draw? Which one? Because I put it in the wrong spot. I was about to do a vertical, and the vertical one I would have done would be having x is equal to negative 2.5. That's the one I was about to draw, but that's not what we have. This is the one we're supposed to have, yes? Because that's where y is equal to negative 2.5. Does that make sense? Because I got them flipped. I do that all the time if I'm not paying attention. Any questions on this so far? We're good with this here? X equals 5. Would this be horizontal or vertical? It would be vertical. X equals is vertical. X equals is always going to be vertical. Y equals will be horizontal. So here we're saying x is equal to 5, yes? Where does x have a value 5? Well, we're talking about the x-axis, yes? So as a reminder, kind of way to do it, it's like, okay, where's x5? Well, I know it's right there on the x-axis, yes? And all the values for x that would be equal to 5 would be going vertical, all the way up and down. So on big ideas math, because it needs 2 points, yes? To do the line. Well, I can do a point here at 0, 5, and then pick one just straight above it, and it'll draw the line straight up and down. The same thing with y equals. I'll just pick 2 points that are right next to each other, and it'll draw the line. Questions on this here? Not too bad so far. Now, as you've learned with already in the math or pre-algebra or 8th grade or 7th grade math, how many points do we need to have to draw a line? 2, because if I have 2 points, we can draw a line. If there are any 2 points, we can draw exactly one line. So if I want to graph the equation of a line, I need 2 points, yes? And what we're looking at today is an equation called standard form. We're going to look at the equation of a line in standard form, and it has it written right here. AX plus BY equals C. This here is standard form. Standard form. And we're going to pick out 2 points in particular. There's 2 particular points I always use, and this book is going to say to use, and I agree with it, to find the equation of a line. Now, I'm going to look at this picture here. So this axis here that I'm pointing at, the one that goes straight up and down, is the y-axis, yes? What is the x value at the y-axis? So the x value would be what? What is the x value at this line right here? Going right here. What is the x value of this? It would be what? What do you guess? What do you think? So the x value of this whole line, going along with this here, wouldn't be 12. It is what? So what's the next one over from it? So if I go over one, I'm at where? What is the x value at this point right here in the middle? So this whole line, the x value would be what? 0. Because at the y-axis, the x value would be 0, yes? On the x-axis, going this direction, what is the value of y? 0. On the x-axis, the y value is 0. On the y-axis, the x value is 0, yes? And that's what we're going to use. That's what it's talking about. This here. The x-intercept of a graph is the x-coordinate of a point where the graph crosses the x-axis. It occurs where y equals 0. So when it crosses the x-axis, the y value is 0. the y-intercept of a graph is the y-coordinate of a point where it crosses the graph, where the x is 0. And we normally call the x-intercept a comma 0. And the y-intercept 0 comma b, whatever those values are. And those are the 2 points we will use for our standard equation. And it'll make more sense here in a minute. So with this here, I want to find what they're going to call the x-intercept, where the y value is 0, and I want to find the y-intercept, where the value of x is 0. We're wanting to find these two here. So any questions on this here so far? So if I want to find the x-intercept, I want to find the value of x when y is 0, yes? I'm going to plug it in because we'd have 3x plus 4 times 0 equals 12. Because I'm going to plug 0 in for y to find the x-intercept. What is 4 times 0? 0. We pretty much, it's gone, yes? So I have 3x equals 12. How can I solve for the value of x? We can divide both sides by 2. X equals, so the x-intercept is 4, 0. Any questions on this here, how we found one of the points? Well, now we want to find the y-intercept. So we'll do the same thing, except this time we're plugging in 0 for x. So we'd have 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. Well, 3 times 0, that's 0. It's gone, yes? So what am I left with? 4y equals 12. So the y-intercept is 0, 3. Do I have 2 points now? So I can plot those points. 4, 0, so I would go over to positive 4 and go up 0. So it'd just be 4 on the x-axis. The y-intercept is 0, 3, so it'd start at 0 and go up to 3. And then we draw a line straight through it. You can use a straight edge or a ruler to draw it. You just set it next to the 2 points and draw the line. Have y'all used a straight edge before? Okay. Any questions on this here? All right. Let's look at this one here. So we want to find 2 points. And really what we're looking for is what is the y value when x is 0, and what is the x value when y is 0. So for the first one here, we can do 2 times 0 minus y equals 4. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. We're just left with negative y equals 4, yes? Well, we don't want negative y. We want positive y. So we can divide or multiply both sides by negative 1, which gives us y is equal to negative 4. So that gives us one of our points. Now the other one, we're going to plug in 0 for y. Well, that just cancels out. It simplifies out to where we just have 2x equals 4. Because the y values is gone because it's 0. Now to get x by itself, we need to divide both sides by 2, and we get x is equal to 2. So if I plot these points, so we have 0 on the x and go down 4. So 0, -4. And on the x-axis, we have 2, 0. Those are our 2 points. Any questions on how we got those 2 points? Now we can take the straight edge and line it up, and then draw a straight line. Something like that there. Questions on this here? We good with these here? Yes? I mean, that's example 3. You're planning an awards banquet for your school. You need to rent tables to seat 180 people. Tables come in 2 sizes. Tables seat 6 people, and large tables seat 10. The equation 6x plus 10y equals 180 models this situation where x is the number of small tables and y is the number of large tables. Graph and interpret the equation. So again, to graph this, we're going to do the same thing we've been doing. Find out what the y value is when x is 0, and find out what the x value is when y is 0. So if I plug in 0 for x, we'd have 6 times 0. 10y equals 1080. Well, 6 times 0 is 0. So we have 10y equals 180. So what do we need to do? Divide by 10. Can y'all do 180 divided by 10 in your head?
9. No. No, I can't. Oh, I get it. Because all you have to do is for
Drop.
18 times 0, it's
Yep.
just add 0.
Because anytime we divide by 0, really we're taking the decimal and moving it back one place. Same things with multiplying by 10, we just move the decimal over 1. Now we have to do the same thing, but this time we're plugging in 0 for y. We did the x first. So we'll have to do it in both. We have to do one equation where we plug in 0 for y and 1 for x. This time here, we're going to divide both sides by 6. So we get x is equal to 30. Well, that graph does us absolutely no good. Okay. Yep. So if we were to graph it, it'd be something like this here. I wouldn't worry too much about graphing this because you'd have to redraw the graph completely, yes? Yep. That works too. And we have this here. So what does it mean if, so at 30, What is 30? It's having 30 tables. Would they be what? 30 of the big or small? Where x is the number of, so if it's at x is 30, means we have 30 of the small tables, yes? Now, y is the big tables, yes? And that would be 18. So that means this is 18 of the big, this is 30 of the small. And this line represents the combinations that we would have of the two, of the big and small tables. And we're not going to worry too much about those. Now, some of these here we might get fractions. It's possible to get fractions. And those we would just do in between, like our 0.5, yes? Any questions on this here? That's actually it. That's all we have for today.